over to Jason C. from TSAC and also to Suzette Telly, who manages our Tennessee Electronic Transcript Exchange, to talk about HOPE GPA reporting. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Suzette and Jason.
Yeah, well, guys, good morning.
Good morning.
Marinelle, thank you as always for running the webinar for us. Guys, probably many of you have done this, have listened to webinars before. There's a chat feature where you can definitely type questions as we go.
And a Q&A box.
And a Q&A box. So as always, if a question comes up, type it in. We are going to defer to Marinelle whether to ask it all at once versus waiting towards the end. So let's get started. So what are we talking about today? Well, again, we're talking about HOPE GPA reporting. So, back when the HOPE Scholarship Program, I guess the official title, the Tennessee Education Lottery Scholarship Program, was passed into legislation and began being awarded initially to the class of 2004, one of the things that we asked our public and private high schools to do is to send us or report the final GPAs achieved by their graduating seniors. And, for, I'm going to say at least all these years, there's been one method to do this or one method that began, which was eGrants, reporting the GPAs through eGrants. But then back in, I guess, the late 2000s maybe, we also added an electronic transcript exchange functionality as well. So as you see, leading with this slide right here, as a reminder, schools, public and private, you guys have two options in order to complete this important task. One option is by using the Tennessee Electronic Transcript Exchange. The other option is by entering these GPAs via eGrants. With that said, Suzette is going to lead us through initially the Tennessee Electronic Transcript Exchange option. That's a mouthful.
That is a mouthful. Thank you, Jason. So as he said, the schools and districts that upload your senior transcript data through the exchange, your Uniform Grading Policy GPA or the HOPE Scholarship GPA will automatically upload to eGrants. So that means you do not have to complete that manual submission of GPA data. So that's one of the big benefits of the transcript exchange. So what if your transcripts don't have Social Security numbers? This has been a problem for a while as more schools go to not reporting the Social Security numbers on the transcripts. We think we've found a solution. So eGrants will now look for a perfect match on these data points: first name, last name, date of birth, and high school code. If it can match on all four of those data points, then we will have a perfect match, and your transcript data will go seamlessly into eGrants. Is it perfect? No. Few things in life are perfect, but it is better. So I would encourage you to wait, whether you have Social Security numbers on there or not, wait about 24 to 48 hours after you upload your final transcripts through the exchange, and then log into eGrants and make sure that all of your student GPAs have successfully uploaded. There could be one or two or more who, for whatever reason, didn't have a perfect match, and those will have to be manually verified. So I do encourage you to check. New this year, we actually have a file processing log within the Transcript Center. So when you do your uploads to the Transcript Center, you no longer have these vague, ambiguous error messages. You can see on the left of this slide, this is the way we used to send error messages. So see there, it says vague error messages, and that's always been a big complaint. So I think we've solved that with this transcript processing log. So on the right is the new process. You will receive an email if you have an error, and it will tell you to log into the Tennessee Electronic Transcript Exchange. You're now able to click on the file processing log, and you can actually see what the errors are. In the past, we were unable to send personal information through emails, but you can see it within the Transcript Center and find out exactly what students are affected and fix those errors and resubmit. This time of year, we always get a lot of interest in joining the Transcript Center for those who don't want to do the manual verification. So it's not too late for 2019. So if you would like to get started, or if you started in the past and you would like to get back into it, please email me at suzette.telly@tn.gov. Or if you just want more information about the Transcript Center, please visit clearinghouseacademy.org. There you can find online tutorials and also recorded webinars. Back to you, Jason. Go ahead. You have a question?
I did get one transcript exchange question. So one person asked, the transcript exchange is only available for public high schools. Is that correct?
That's not correct, but you do have to use one of the 6 SIS systems that the state systems use. So if you're using one of the big ones like PowerSchool or any one of those 6, you are able to use it. If you're using a smaller one such as RenWeb, which a lot of private schools use, we're not currently able to process those, but we're working on a solution for that as well.
Awesome. Suzette, great job.
Thank you very much.
You know, we were excited when we added Suzette to our team now, I guess, several years ago, and I guess this is really the first time we've honestly had a webinar.
That's right.
To talk about the transcript exchange, because you know there's a lot of confusion out there. Guys, one thing that she mentioned, and you know, I think about Metro Nashville Public Schools, Shelby County Schools as 2 examples. You know, these 2 larger districts use the Tennessee Electronic Transcript Exchange. And she mentioned, and rightfully so, right, for school districts like Shelby and like Metro that upload, you know, again, in theory, they don't need to also worry with manually entering GPAs. But she did make the one point about the importance of you still honestly need an eGrants account, because I think it is important for all schools to check to make sure that GPAs were successfully loaded, as she said, 24 to 48 hours, say, after using the electronic transcript exchange. So, guys, again, you may not necessarily, if I'm a Metro counselor, for example, you may not necessarily need to manually enter a GPA via eGrants, because, again, the transcript upload should take care of the majority of students, but just in case, it's important to have an eGrants account in order to check that all your students were taken care of, which I think is a great place to start as we talk about eGrants. And some of you listening may be like, well, Jason, you know, how do I actually, what if I don't have an eGrants account? Well, if you don't have an eGrants account, you can obviously contact me, and I'll send you a high school user request form to have for you to complete, and that is how an account can be created. Or you can contact your TSAC outreach specialist, and some of you may you know, contact Robert Biggers directly. Again, any of us here can help you get an account if you don't already have one. That said, to get the eGrants, as a reminder, go to our College Pays site, tn.gov/collegepays. If you scroll to the bottom of the site, you will see under important links, eGrants user access. If you click there, that will then take you to the eGrants login screen. And you know, because this is the time of year where many of you are going to be logging in for the first time. Maybe since the fall, when you perhaps were logging into eGrants for Tennessee Promise Reports. And then others of you, this might be the first time since last May or last June since you logged into eGrants. And some of you will try your username and try your password, and you've either forgotten it or you become locked out. A lot of counselors will ask, well, Jason, you know, what do we do, you know, when we become locked out? Our team downstairs is constantly monitoring the eGrants locked use. So if you do find yourself locked out, our colleagues downstairs, David Chandler, Tracy Biggers, Journey Ellison, et cetera, are constantly monitoring that user locked screen. And so if you do become locked out, generally the protocol is they will unlock you, and then they will email you with your temporary password. Now, sometimes they get busy, right, and they may not get to this right away. So you can always feel free to email myself or email your TSAC outreach specialist, or call our call center. Our call center is 1-800-342-1663. Again, that's 1-800-342-1663. And this is another way where we can unlock your account and assign you a temporary password so that you can successfully log in. Once you've logged into eGrants, I'm going to go over the two screens here, and this is what I would encourage. Obviously, if you're a school that your way of sending TSAC your final GPAs is by manually entering them via eGrants, this is obviously what you would do. But also for those schools that use the transcript exchange, as Suzette alluded, hopefully we've solved the Social Security issue. But she said, and she's absolutely right, it's not perfect, and it won't be perfect. And so this is why I think it's imperative for all of our schools once to use eGrants and check the Verify Students list. So, for example, when you log into eGrants, the top left-hand corner, the first option for you to click is what's called Verify Students. And this is a screen where you can actually enter those final GPAs. So I'm going to pretend to be a Metro counselor for a second. So, if I'm sitting in McGavick High School and I know that central office uploaded, let's say yesterday, if it was me, I would then log into eGrants the next day to check. If for some reason I had a screen that still said 74 students at that point in time, I might give it one additional day just to see, give it the 48 hours for GPAs to get through. And let's say I returned on that second day and I saw that I still had 10 students to verify. This is why I'm encouraging counselors and schools to log into eGrants, because of the imperfection that might be that social matching, right? There may be students whose first name or last name may be different than what we have per their FAFSA. And so it's imperative that you log in and you let's say, take care and then manually enter any GPAs that need entering after the fact, all right? So once you click on Verify Students, you go to the screen. As you see number 2, the column heading name, for any students that may be remaining, or if you're a school that you do all your GPA entering through eGrants, and if you are counselors who serve the specific alphabet, by clicking name, it will alphabetize everyone on the Verify screen list. 3, this is where you will simply enter the GPA field, and this is actually an update. So for the first time, we actually, and I think Mary Nell and I alluded to this during our last webinar, this was a big fix in eGrants that took place this winter. We finally got rid of the quote-unquote unweighted and weighted GPA columns, and we collapsed them to one column. So now it's a final high school GPA column, and as Suzette, referenced earlier, if you are a public high school, you must be entering the GPA that adheres to the uniform grading policy. And at most schools, this would align with your unweighted GPA. Some of you have updated that unweighted GPA and called it a HOPE GPA. So again, folks, by removing one of the columns, hopefully we have now removed a huge point of confusion with a lot of counselors and a lot of people, administrators that enter GPAs. Again, you're entering a GPA in that final high school GPA column, and as a reminder, it must adhere to the State Board of Education's uniform grading policy. After you enter GPA, you will then need to check that box under the verified column. And so as you see here on this screen, we've got a Sarah and a Maggie and a Lauren and Ethan. After, say, entering those 4, 5, 6 GPAs and checking those 4, 5, 6 boxes, at the bottom of the screen, you do not see it on this slide, but at the bottom of the screen there's an OK button. And when you click OK, that will then push those GPAs on into the system. I've always encouraged counselors to enter, 5 or 6 GPAs at a time, as opposed to trying to tackle, let's say, 74 students at a time. This is due to timing out issues that sometimes eGrants users experience, especially during this time of season when we've got so many users trying to get into eGrants and doing this. So, again, I still would encourage you to again, enter only a couple of GPs at a time, click OK to get them submitted, and then return and do another 5 or 6 and so forth and so on until all GPAs have been entered via eGrants. Another big thing that happened with the Verify screen, and for years, guys, understand, you are ideally reporting GPAs for students who may qualify for HOPE, but also, guys, the forgotten program, as I like to refer to it, the HOPE Access Grant, for students that have an 18, 19, or 20 ACT. If their parents' adjusted gross income is $36,000 or less, by achieving a 2.75 to 2.99 GPA upon graduation, these students may qualify for the HOPE Access Grant. And I've always been worried, because of our system for several years now, there were some students that were being relegated to one screen versus the Verify screen based on some internal stuff in our system. Bottom line, for the first time on that Verify screen, you should see every student that has a 0 to 20 ACT, right, and also 29 to 36 ACT. These are the students that require GPA entry. Again, why? Well, for any student that has a 0 to 20, hopefully they may have the GPA to qualify for the HOPE Scholarship. For those with an 18, 19, and 20, if they don't qualify for HOPE, maybe that GPA qualifies them for HOPE Access Grant. And then that last group, 29 to 36, folks, let's not forget about GAMS, the General Assembly Merit Supplement. These students require that GPA to see if they qualify for the additional $500 associated with GAMS, and that GPA requirement is a 3.75 or better. Again, it must adhere to the uniform grading policy. So, for the first time, all these students should be on this list, whereas in previous years, some of you may have emailed and say, hey, Jason, I'm missing Mary Nell from my verification list, or I'm missing Suzette from my verification list, and you may have seen me respond, well, I need to clean your list. And basically what I was doing is I was moving, all your students that perhaps had achieved 18s or 16s or 15s or whatever to your Verify list, right? And so for the first time, all these students should be on this list for you to enter the GPA for. So I think this is pretty self-explanatory. Again, Verify screen is where you're going to enter that GPA. Make sure you check the Verify box and then scroll down to the bottom in order to get those GPAs submitted. Mary Nell, question?
Yes, I do have 2 questions,
all right,
actually. So question number 1, do you enter the entire GPA? For example, a 3.958, or would you just enter a 3.9?
This is a great question. So I would enter the GPA to the 100th place, and more importantly, for HOPE and HOPE Access and HOPE with GAMS and HOPE with Aspire purposes, per law, GPAs are not to be rounded. So, Mary Nell, give me the example again,
3.958.
So, in that 3.958 example, I would enter a 3.95. So, in other words, enter the GPA to the 100th place. And so an example of a 3.958, I would enter in the eGrants 3.95. Great question.
And then the second question was, you mentioned this earlier, but the call center, what are their hours?
So the call center hours are 8 to 4:30 Central Standard Time. or I guess, I learned the other day that the difference between CST and CDT. So apparently we are Central Daylight Time now. I did not know that. Anyways, but again, sorry guys, 8 to 4:30 Central Standard Time. I will say, I mean, my colleague or our colleague Janice is right across from us in her office right now. Janice sometimes does open the call center even earlier than that. So for those of you on the Eastern time zone, if you want to try at 8 Eastern, sometimes Janice has already opened the phone lines. But generally speaking, our published times are 8 to 4:30 Central would be our published times.
Okay, one more. Could you reiterate again for a private school if they're entering the weighted or unweighted GPA?
Yeah, for private schools, yes, you can totally read this as my hesitancy in terms of the policy or what have you. Our interpretation, and do we know, forgive me, who's...
Vivian Stone?
So, Ms. Vivian, I think Ms. Vivian is one of my counselors down in Chattanooga, if I'm not mistaken. Ms. Vivian, if you want to email me to double check, and any of you that want to email just to double check this, what we generally have said is enter the GPA that maybe doesn't align with the uniform grading policy, but basically would be on an unweighted scale, because what law does say is it cannot exceed a 4.0, right? So, Vivian, that's not, you can totally read this as not a strong answer, because, but generally speaking, we have said to most people to enter an unweighted GPA, even for private schools. But Vivian, and anyone that's listening to this at a private school, if you want to follow up with me via email so that we can get an official response from Robert, just to double check, just to make sure there's not been any interpretation change downstairs or anything like that. I think that's more than okay for you to do that, just to double check, just to make sure that we're doing the right thing for our students, specifically our private school students. Yeah, Marielle, thanks for the thumbs up. Hopefully, Ms. Vivian, that you'll have a thumbs up, and again, like I said, email me if you need to, just to confirm that. A few other things just about reporting GPAs. After this, when Mary Nell posts the webinar, I'm also going to have her to post a couple of helpful PDFs so that she can you have access to a couple one-page PDFs that walk you through the verification process. The other question that comes up at times is the question of, Jason, is there a deadline to report these GPAs? And my response to such questions is there's not. But obviously, the sooner the better. Meaning, as soon as you get final GPAs calculated, to me, you should either upload them through the transcript exchange or enter them through eGrants. Because again, guys, until this is done, the Students' Hope Scholarship, especially for those that are earning Hope or Hope Access or Hope with GAMS, that's not going to be established in the system for those that are requiring the GPA entry until it's done. And, the sooner that can be done, the sooner a college can go and get that on a student's award letter, again, for those that are qualifying based on GPA. So, again, the sooner the better in order to get the GPAs done. But, again, technically there is no deadline. But, again, the sooner the better, just so our students can have these awards reflected on their award letters prior to tuition bills being done or being sent out by the colleges. And so generally speaking, if you can get these uploaded / manually entered by, the first or second week of June at the latest, that's probably going to take care of the majority of students that are looking for their Hope or Hope Access eligibility or Hope with GAMS eligibility on their tuition bills. The other thing I just wanted to show or remind counselors is in eGrants, the verified student screen. So this is where you can see all the information once GPAs have been entered, or currently, if you click on verified screen, this is where you're going to find all of your 21 to 28 ACT achievers, right? If you have achieved a 21 to 28, you are already HOPE eligible. You do not require any additional GPA because, again, based on that 21 through a 28 ACT or the SAT equivalent, you are HOPE eligible. So that's what you would find today. Once your GPAs have been entered, then this list will expand to also include all the students that you have then entered their GPA. So that's something to look forward to, that you can look at that point in time, the verified screen to find students and their eligibilities. Marinelle, if you will, click on the slide. You're good. As you're looking, the other important thing maybe to look at the slide is the HOPE status category, just FY. You know, if you're curious, and some of you may find once the GPAs have been entered and once the 24 to 48 hours it takes for these GPAs to run and eligibility to run, under that HOPE status, you're going to see the messages. You know, in this case, we have an Anthony here who is eligible, HOPE with Aspire. We've got a Jonathan on the screen who is HOPE only eligible. I think those are pretty self-explanatory. However, we have a Mason here who has a status of ineligible, blank EFC, and also ineligible, not TN resident. As you see, Mason has a 26. And you might be like, Jason, well, what does blank EFC and not TN resident mean? And well, this goes back to the helpful handout that Marinelle will attach or send out, or we'll definitely put on the website that has the status meanings defined. And this is just a screenshot of that document. Guys, anytime you see blank EFC, and some of you may remember this from our previous, after the FAFSA webinar, if you ever see blank EFC in eGrants, what that means is there is an error with that student's FAFSA. There's something that's missing that's making that FAFSA incomplete. It could be that their signature has not processed, or a parent's signature has not occurred. It could be where they have made an error and reported erroneous, accidentally erroneous information somewhere. So that's one of the things. If you see blank EFC as an ineligible reason, that student should return the FAFSA and review his or her student aid report to ascertain the error, and then obviously to correct the error via FAFSA. And then once that's corrected, then hopefully that student's eligibility would be established. So again, the status meetings will be accompanying this webinar. I think the other thing to discuss, because 'tis the season for schools and school districts to report year-end totals for different scholarships and grants, et cetera, as a reminder, in eGrants, you do have a number of reports that you have access to. Today, I am going to walk us through how to pull the totals report, which is probably going to be most beneficiary in reporting back maybe to a school district your totals for various TSAC-related programs. Marinelle, forgive me. Can you click on the slide? You're good. You're good. So if you're in eGrants, if you click Reports, and then if you click on the High School Reports tab, followed by High School Totals Report, for criteria, if you leave it as award and then select the 1920 academic year, because again, folks, remember, this is the FAFSA. The 1920 FAFSA is what would have been completed by this year's seniors, followed by 2019 for the grad year. And then for number 7, this is where you'll have the ability to select the program you want to pull a specific report for. Now, this HOPE scholarship report that I have highlighted here or have selected, this report will reflect HOPE, HOPE with GAMS, and Hope with Aspire eligible students once you have your GPAs uploaded, okay? And so once those have been uploaded or been entered into eGrants, and once the 24 or 48 hours have passed for eligibility to run in the system, then you could, again, return to eGrants and run this report to get a totals numbers for example, Hope with Aspire and Hope with GAMS. So once you select the program, you'll next finally click Generate Report. I should also mention for the program, those of you who want to pull a Wilder-NAEFI grant report, that is a program option for you. Those of you, Hope Access, that's another option for you under the program's selection box. TSCA. So in other words, you'll see a myriad of TSAC programs that you may want to run just so that you can report back to your school district. Again, I'm selecting Hope, which again, the Hope report encompasses Hope, GAMS, and Aspire. But again, to also report to pull for Wilder-NAEFI and Hope Access, those two are separate reports that you will just select from the program box and then click Generate Report. Thereafter, a window will open. You can select what format, number 9, what format of the report, how you want it to appear, whether it's a PDF or Excel or any other option that you'll see within this box. And then finally, once you click Report, boom, this is the type of report you should see. Now, what's neat about this report, again, this is the Hope report. By selecting awarded criteria, this lets you see, all the students who have potentially been, who are potentially eligible and have potentially been offered a Hope with Aspire or Hope with GAMS award. Moreover, on this report, it lets you see what college this student, what Tennessee college this student has indicated on their FAFSA for their money to be reflected. And then thereafter, you will see their potential award amounts for the fall semester, the spring semester, and also the summer semester. And then that last column is the grand total, and that grand total is the summation of the student's potential full-time award if they were to enroll in fall, spring, and also the summer terms. Now, I actually had a school to contact me last week and ask us, Jason, but many of our students don't attend summer, so can we omit from reporting that total amount? And I was like, you can do whatever you want to, right? I mean, guys, if the school district is asking you for totals, I mean, that's up between you and the school district in terms of what you should be reporting, right? So if you just want to do fall and spring, I think that's appropriate. If that's what you want to do, just understand that last column also includes summer. So in other words, if you were to just do fall and spring, you would just want to add up 2 of the columns as opposed to all 3 of the columns shown. So this is a totals report. Like I said, you can run this report for a myriad of TSAC programs that hopefully you'll find helpful reporting back to the district as it asks for such numbers. Now, questions?
I do have 2 questions. They're going to require backtracking momentarily.
Okay, that's all right.
But I think they're related.
Yeah.
So one of them is, why am I asked to verify students that have a 30 or higher?
Yeah.
And then the second is, what if I have 2 students with a 33 and a 31 ACT score that are showing up on my verify list? Should they not be there?
So again, first question here, all right, and Marinelle may have to, you repeat the second one. The first one specifically, let's look at this screenshot on the verify screen. Lauren and Ethan are on there both with 29s. I think this example you said a 33 or 36, whatever it was. But guys, remember, Hope with GAMS. The General Assembly Merit Supplement, shorthand that would be GAMS. To qualify for Hope with GAMS, a student must satisfy 2 requirements. First, the student must have a 29 ACT or better, or the SAT equivalent, and he or she must graduate with a 3.75 final GPA, all right, that must be reported by the high school through the electronic transcript exchange or manually reported via eGrants. So That's the reason why you must report a GPA for Lauren or Ethan in this case, because, right, if Lauren has a 3.85 final GPA, then that will establish GAMS eligibility for Lauren. If Ethan has a 4.0 GPA, right, then Ethan, that 4.0 will establish GAMS eligibility for Ethan. So that's why you should enter the final GPA for students with a 29 or higher and any other student on the Verify screen. The second question was, again, what?
It was, what if I have two students with a 33 and a 31 ACT score that are showing up on my Verify list? Should they not be listed there?
So it is the same question. Forgive me. I heard that a little bit differently. So it's the exact same question, right? Again, if you've got a student that's a 31, again, they need that GPA entered because it's only with that final GPA entered along with that 31 or 33 that will establish their GAMS eligibility. All right. If you refrain from entering it, then they're just going to be HOPE eligible. They won't have the opportunity to be GAMS eligible, so you must enter that GPA. And the same thing goes for a student that has a 0 to 20 ACT, meaning, some counselors have said to me in the past, and I think Mary Nell and Suzette have also received these questions, of, well, I've got a student that has like a 2.7, why, or 2.8. Why should I waste my time entering GPA for it? Well, folks, if that kid has an 18, 19, or 20, they could be HOPE Access Grant eligible, which after their first year of college could then lead to HOPE with Aspire eligibility. So, as many of you know me, right, this is 13 plus years now of all this lottery knowledge, right, where I know I'm very comfortable with these programs. So my point is, right, I hopefully can teach you all about the ins and outs of these programs because there's so much that you have to know. Bottom line, if you have a student on your Verify screen, right, whether it's after you've uploaded a transcript, right, and you still got a student on this Verify screen, or if you're a school that, for whatever reasons unable to use the exchange and you manually verify all your GPA 3 grants, if they're on your Verify screen and if a student belongs to you, enter their GPA and get them off your list. Great questions, though, guys. Great questions. All right. So we're past the totals reports. 2 reminders. You've heard Suzette and myself both say this several times. TELS eligibility runs each night. And so for those of you that use eGrants different times of the year, from a promise perspective, when a student submits the promise application, they should then instantaneously pop up on your Tennessee Promise Report. That's not how these GPAs work because, again, once you submit the GPAs, and this is actually new this year, so some of you are listening to me and going, Jason, I thought that was instantaneous. It used to be, where if you entered a GPA into eGrants, it would instantaneously establish eligibility for that student if they had a eligible GPA. However, because of the lag issue with the system, one of our recent upgrades this winter was for a school that enters GPAs or for the transcripts that are uploaded, right, that then are loaded into eGrants overnight, we're waiting to run eligibility at night when, generally speaking, we don't have users in the system. All right, so just as a reminder, it may take 24 to 48 hours for the GPAs to quote-unquote process and eligibility to be established for the GPAs that you've either uploaded or entered manually, which means as it pertains to that totals report, you'll want to check eGrants the next business day, right, to run it, and then also up to 48 hours, right? So if they're not showing up the next business day, then check the day after, right? And then at that point in time, if you still have a bunch of students that are pending eligibility, that's when you would probably want to contact Suzette or myself to see what the issue might be. I think the last slide for us to tackle is this is something that that we just ran into because one of our private school counselors, one of our great private school counselors reached out to us last week saying, I think reached out specifically to Robert and said, Robert, I have several students that took the SAT and they're not in the system. What's up? Well, Robert checked to see if first, was it a social issue, which a lot of us know about the Social Security number issues. And it wasn't that. And so he dug a little deeper and he ended up calling College Board. College Board has a new policy where it is no longer sending any state guarantee agency, which would include TSAC, SAT test records. So although, right, we do have public school students that do take the SAT on occasion, the majority of our SAT test takers probably reside at our private high schools. So as you look through your eGrants rosters, you know, I think it would be worth your while just to see, is there an SAT score that you need to manually enter, right? Say you have a student that took the ACT, and let's say they achieved a 20, however, they took the SAT and they achieved the SAT equivalent. I'm going to say, Marinelle, I would prefer no one to ask me what the SAT equivalent is for a 21, because that's another thing that SAT also changed. And, you know, so in other words, but just as a reminder, guys, for SAT scores, they're no longer being communicated to TSAC. So if you have a student that took the SAT and if they achieve a score that impacts their HOPE or HOPE with GAMS or HOPE Access grant eligibility, that's something that, again, you have the ability to manually enter the eGrants, something that we went over during after the FAFSA webinar. But we definitely, I'll make sure, Marinelle, we send out the helpful PDF that explains how to manually enter or correct ACT and or SAT scores, the eGrants. As always, guys, y'all know this, you can also contact your TSAC outreach specialist. There's our team across the state there, and then several of you obviously work with colleagues in-house, Robert, Journey, Jana, et cetera. I mean, there's a whole myriad of people here at TX and TSAC that can help you with this process. But again, there's the TSAC contacts just in case.
So I do have another question for you.
Yeah.
Several, actually.
Cool.
Is our last slide?
I think so. Other than there's Suzette and my contact information again, so we'll maybe leave it here for now.
Okay. So first question, is it true that students can continue taking the ACT through July to qualify? And if so, if they qualify for GAMS, for example, when may those July ACT scores be uploaded to eGrants for us to verify their final GPA?
So great question. Yes. The key is, as long as the student has not enrolled in college, right? So in other words, as long as the student has not begun their classwork, so I graduate May of 2019, and if I am beginning classes August 2019/September 2019, to the question, yes, I can take that June and or I believe there's a July national test date now as well, I believe. I can take those national test dates, and whether it's for HOPE, whether it's for HOPE Access, whether it's for HOPE with GAMS, you know, if I have a qualifying score, then yes, I can then become eligible. To the question of when will those scores hit the system, here's what I would say. Because scores, we see sometimes it take up to 12 weeks for them to hit the system. If Jason retakes the June national ACT and Jason achieves, you know, that qualifying HOPE score of a 21 or better, or for GAMS a 29 or higher, if Jason and or the school, as soon as he or the school, meaning the high school, receives that, I would say you then need to manually enter that into eGrants, or contact TSAC to get that score manually entered. Because if we don't manually enter it, it may be, October or thereafter before it actually comes into the system, right? So that would be my encouragement, is if I were to take that June national test date, and if I get my score results back in late July, for example, if I was a student, I would communicate that to my school counselor and have he or she then to either, again, manually enter that into eGrants, or contact, TSAC to get that manually entered. Because if we wait for ACT or if we wait for TSAC to get that from ACT, it could be mid-October before we get June or July's test results.
Just a clarifying question. One person asked if you could explain what GAMS is. They were not familiar with GAMS.
Yeah, no, you're good. Sorry, guys. So, again, GAMS, the General Assembly Merit Supplement. So for our students who graduate with a 29 ACT or higher, or the SAT equivalent, and also graduate with a 3.75 GPA per the Uniform Grading Policy, these students may qualify for the additional $500 each semester associated with the General Assembly Merit Supplement. So when you hear me say GAMS, G-A-M-S, I'm using shorthand for, again, the General Assembly Merit Supplement, which is a supplement to the Hope Scholarship. You'll find it in the TSAC brochure if you have one near you, or the TELS summary sheet that many of you use each year to educate students and parents about our programs. But anyways, it's a supplement to the Hope Scholarship. And if you're wondering how it's applied for just like Hope is, through the FAFSA. There's no special boxes to check or anything. Students just submit the FAFSA. And again, if they have a 3.75 GPA or better, along with a 29 ACT or better, they will be GAMS eligible.
Next question, could you reiterate the deadline to enter GPA?
So again, from a TSAC perspective, there is no deadline. Again, there is no deadline. However, the sooner the better. Why? Because our students are waiting, especially those that are qualifying for HOPE, the HOPE Access Grant, even HOPE with GAMS, based on that GPA requirement. They're waiting on us to get those GPAs entered into the system for that eligibility established, and then for their college to officially put that award on to their award package. And ideally, this is happening prior to tuition bills being sent out. So thus why I say the sooner the better. I think some of you may have heard, and this may be why the question is being re-asked, I think ideally all schools and school districts, whether through eGrants or uploading through the transcript exchange, if this could be done by the second week of June at the latest, I think that really behooves our students. It also really behooves our colleges who are preparing these tuition bills. And, if this gets done in that time frame, then that HOPE or HOPE Access Grant or HOPE with GAMS, that would be on that award, as opposed to, let's say you procrastinate into July and August. More than likely, a lot of those students might have to pay out of pocket initially before they're able, that HOPE is then applied. And again, so the sooner the better, but again, there's no official deadline from a TSAC perspective, but the sooner the better to behoove our students and our colleges.
Should a counselor check their eGrants account during the summer just in case the student completes the FAFSA after the school ends? Yeah, so again, another great question. Forgive me, Marianelle, probably just in case should be repeating these questions just in case you're not coming through. Guys, we're in a room. No, you're good. We're in a room where we have speakerphones, so hopefully you heard that. But question is should counselors periodically check eGrants during the summer just in case? The answer is yes. Because again, whether it's you're uploading, and I think this is the comfortability, the perceived comfortability with
using the electronic transcript exchange, you know, you upload, say, 400 transcripts from your graduating seniors. That's awesome. Ideally, all 400 of those transcripts will connect with an application, a FAFSA application in eGrants, and the eligibility for those 400 students will be established, right, one way or the other. But again, eGrants is not always perfect. Data from your transcript is not always perfect. If you know there's a wrong social on your transcript, or if the name from your transcript differs from what the student used on his or her FAFSA, that could cause those records not to match. Thus, the importance of everyone reviewing eGrants after the fact and then periodically, you know, throughout the summer and even in the fall, just to ensure that all the students that require a GPA for anything, for any reason, is taken care of. That's why, you know, there are students that will call the school in July and August saying, hey, you know, Middle or UT or Vanderbilt saying that my Hope Scholarship hasn't been verified. Well, it could be because there was a data element incorrect, and so that student could still be pending the GPA requirement in eGrants. So, yes, I think it's imperative for counselors to review it periodically just to take care of students. And then also, I guess one other thing about this way is, what if we had a student that we worked all year with, and we said, do the FAFSA, do the FAFSA, do the FAFSA, and they just never did until they woke up one morning in August, I got to go to college and I got to do the FAFSA. Well, that may be a student that then pops onto your verified list. That would be another reason for you to periodically check just to take care of that student who waits till the last minute to do the FAFSA.
Okay, so someone also shared the uniform grading policy as of October 27th. So I'm going to read that, and will you let me know if this is the correct, the most updated policy. So the GPA shall be reported to the nearest hundredth. The thousandth digit must be a 5 or higher to round up to the next hundredth. For example, a GPA of 3.296 would be rounded up to a 3.30. A GPA of a 3.2949 would round down to a 3.29.
So, great question. Who is this?
Robin Neighbor.
All right, Robin, great question. And forgive me, guys, when I say who is this, this is not accusatory. I love the questions. Honestly, this may be another one, much like Ms. Vivian's question earlier. Robin, if you will, let's double check, because if you were on here at the beginning, the question was posed, you know, to us, what GPA should be reported into eGrants. So this is where I believe TELS/Hope Scholarship policy trumps what is communicated in the uniform grading policy, which TELS policy says specifically enter the GPA to the 100th spot with no rounding, or I guess I should say without rounding. So in that example, Marinelle, that you just gave, you know, this is where the two policies a little bit differ, where I would say a GPA, if it was a 3.286, I would tell you to enter 3.28, even though the uniform grading policy is saying a little bit different to round it. Because again, TELS policy says otherwise. Robin, if you will, my email's on the screen. You may also know Robert, robert.biggers@tn.gov. Email me this question so that we have resolution. And Marinelle, how about we do an FAQ like we did before, where with that question and also with Vivian's question, maybe a couple others, we do an FAQ. Just in case, you know, just to help our private school audience, specifically with what GPA to be reported. Robin's question about the rounding versus not rounding and stuff like that. You know, again, from a TELS policy perspective, we say do not round, which obviously is different than what the uniform grading policy actually says. I believe TELS policy trumps that uniform grading policy in this instance, but let's double check with Robert.
Last couple, and I think they should be easy. Can you share the call center phone number one more time?
Yeah, I sure can, and this is a good FAQ. And guys, forgive me, this may be something I should have put on this slide right here, contact information. I apologize. Call center, again, 800, so 800-342-1663. Again, 800-342-1663. That is the call center number.
And then last question to kind of wrap things up. We have obviously recorded this webinar.
Mm-hmm.
We will send out that recording.
Mm-hmm.
Are you comfortable also sending out a PDF of these slides?
Yes, absolutely.
As an attachment to the email?
Absolutely. In addition to, perhaps, this might, I'll defer to us maybe in here, but the helpful PDFs that are like the one-pagers,
mm-hmm.
Whether we want to just fold them into this PDF or do separate, I'll defer to Mary Nell, you. But again, we'll definitely send a copy of these slides in addition to those helpful PDFs, specifically from the eGrants perspective, how to pull a report, how to enter a GPA, how to update an ACT or SAT. Those are all things that we will send out.
Great. Perfect. That's it from my end.
Suzette?
One final thing, just to reiterate, when can they start entering data and final grades into eGrants?
Suzette, that's a great question. And you know what? Honestly, that probably should have been my introductory. The answer is today, actually. And that's honestly why we thought it was perfect to do this webinar today, is this is the first day that if you are a school that you already have your final GPAs calculated and you're ready to rock and roll, then you can begin uploading them through the Tennessee Electronic Transcript Exchange or reporting them into eGrants. And again, that's as of today is the day that you can begin doing that for HOPE scholarship purposes.
All right. Well, we are good. That's all the questions. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We will send out these materials within the next week.
Sounds good.
All right. Great.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you.